Chainsaw Man is one of those series that's anything but normal. I mean, when you have a character that wields chainsaws for hands, it speaks for itself. But Chainsaw Man being so weird, I think that's the reason why people find it so appealing. I feel like if you was to describe the story to a person who had never watched anime, they would think you need help or something like medical help. I mean, you have a boy that lives in this world that's full of devils, and he fuses with his chainsaw devil dog and becomes Chainsaw Man, and he joins an organization that fights and hunts devils. People would look at you and would think, is this guy alright? But again, because it's so weird and because it's so out there, Chainsaw Man has a huge fan base. I think it's one of the most popular new gen animes that's out there, and people love this series, me myself included, whether that's because of the characters and the development they go through, the story it tells, or its creativity. Chainsaw Man has cemented itself as being one of those animes that people have to watch just so they can find out what happens. My introduction to Chainsaw Man was from the anime. I never heard of the manga before. There's a lot of things about Chainsaw Man that I could talk about, but in today's video I want to talk about how Denji is so different from your typical shonen protagonist. What I mean by this, I mean that Denji doesn't really have the typical goals, relationships, and especially his personality is very different from a typical shonen protagonist. So it's a good idea to see how he compares. Ever since shonen's existence, you can usually see that a typical shonen protagonist has these traits: determination, a strong sense of justice, and a desire for power. And they also have the ability to rally others to overcome challenges. They are typically young, brave, and have a strong moral code, often fighting against bullies and villains. Now I want to say that there's nothing wrong with these traits. In fact, these traits are what make us as the audience enjoy these characters. An example I would use of a typical shonen protagonist would be Tanjiro from Demon Slayer. He's kind, empathetic, and determined, and has a strong sense of justice. Now like I said, there's nothing wrong with characters having these traits, but it could come across to the audience as generic. But if you look at Denji, he's the complete opposite. He's naive, brash, unsure of himself, and fears losing his humanity. The reason why Denji is like this is because of his upbringing. Living in poverty ever since he was a child, this stunted his growth and social skills, which is why he's so childlike. Now for people who haven't watched Chainsaw Man, they might be wondering why we like Denji as a character. If he was a real person, we would find him annoying, but because Tasuki Fujimoto, the author of Chainsaw Man, humanizes Denji and makes us feel empathy for him, we understand why Denji does the things he does. Denji is a product of his environment. He couldn't act better even if he wanted to, because the truth is, when you have no parents or friends or no parental figures, you wind up being exactly like Denji. This isn't me saying that characters like Tanjiro or Deku don't have tragic backstories, but I think Denji's is more realistic, as realistic as you can get. I think this is why people relate to Denji so much, because they see themselves in Denji. He doesn't have this larger than life goal where he's trying to find the One Piece or is trying to get stronger. My man just wants to eat bread with jam, flirt with a girl and play games with her and hug her until they fall to sleep. And again, because Denji doesn't have this larger than life goal, I think the audience relates to him way much more. I think this is just one of the ways that Denji breaks the mold of being a typical shonen character. I think another way that Denji breaks the mold is the way that he interacts with his friends. Characters like Deku and Tanjiro embrace their friendships, giving them words of encouragement to motivate them to keep on fighting no matter what. But the same can't be said for Denji. In the first season, Denji doesn't have any friends except for Pochita. When he meets Power and Aki, he does the exact opposite of what you would expect from a friend. He kicks Aki in his balls, even though he deserved it at the time. He uses Power's body only for pleasure, which ties back to Denji having a stunted childhood. Now, even though by the end of Chainsaw Man Part 1, Denji becomes more of a family with Aki and Power, I just think that this difference is another reason why people might find Denji more entertaining than characters like Deku or Tanjiro, because to a certain extent we know how Tanjiro and Deku will react in certain situations, characters like Goku and Luffy as well, but I'd say Denji's character is more unpredictable, making his scenes more interesting to watch, and I think this ties into characters and their morality. Denji's morality compared to your typical shonen protagonist is complex. Initially, Denji appears to be driven by his own desires and he doesn't really show much concern with the lives of others, but as the story progresses, Denji starts starts saving people, he starts protecting people and helping, even those that are caught in the middle of battles. Some examples of Denji's character growth are when he refuses to kill Reze, him protecting people during the assassination arc, and the most important one, him saving a cat. Denji's growth from being a morally complex character to a somewhat hero is heartwarming for the audience. Characters like Denji change as the story progresses, but characters like Deku and Tanjiro change the world around them. They both go through character development, but just in different ways. Denji basically goes through Maslow's hierarchy of needs. For those of you that don't know, it's a model for understanding the motivations for human behaviour. It's in the shape of a pyramid. Starting from the bottom, it's psychological needs: air, water, food, shelter, the basic needs of human survival. As you go up the pyramid, you start seeing safety needs, love and belonging, self-esteem and self-actualization. All of these steps are things that Denji goes through. I mean, at the beginning of the series, Denji's living in a shed, eating bread, and he has no friends, no family. It's just him and Pochita. But when Makima finds him, he's given food, shelter, and a purpose. I would say that most typical shonen protagonists don't really go through this change, but I could be ignorant, so let me know in the comments if there are any. I think it's after the assassination arc where Denji, Aki, and Pewa, all three of them really become a family, and Denji starts building close relationships towards them. He starts seeing Aki as a brother and Pewa as a sister. I say sister, but it's more complex than that. That's a whole different video for another time though. But by the end of Chainsaw Man Part 1, Denji becomes a parent figure towards Nayuta. Denji then goes into the final step of the pyramid, which is self-actualization. Denji becomes somewhat of a hero by the end of a Chainsaw Man. He has a purpose to save people, which, side note, should show you how strong the Chainsaw Man devil is, because devils get stronger the more humanity fears it, and Denji becoming a hero, the people love him, they no longer fear him. Chainsaw Man gets weaker as a result. But I think Denji being different from your typical shonen protagonist is a good thing, because it breaks the mold of anime being generic and stale. It keeps things fresh and interesting. This isn't me saying that every anime character should be annoying and wild like Denji, but it's good to break up the mold every now and again. I still enjoy characters like Tanjiro and Deku, but what I think they lack is a bit of edge to them. And this is not just speaking about character. I think Chainsaw Man subverts a lot about the anime shonen genre as a whole. Like, some of the things it subverts are that Chainsaw Man doesn't have a tournament arc. The persistence of tournaments in early arcs is a way to introduce characters and develop them, but we never get a proper tournament in Chainsaw Man, not even a duel between public safety departments. Another one I would say is plot armor. I would say that this one's very famous amongst the Chainsaw Man fandom because of it being non-existent. Only 3 characters of the main cast and Pochita are still alive at the end of the story, and 2 of them are supporting characters. I'll link a video by Apple 2K. He made a really good video explaining it all. I mean, there's many more tropes that I could explain, but I'll just keep it there for now. I mean, I think the main reason why I made this video is because now that the Reze movie is coming out soon, I think people will see how special Chainsaw Man really is, and I think they'll see that it's one of a kind anime. There's many more videos I could make about it, but after watching the first season, I immediately got hooked. I went out to my local anime store or comic book store and literally just brought their chapters of Chainsaw Man, and I really enjoy the journey it takes you through. I relate to Denji in so many ways, which sounds mad, I know, but I relate to him in the way that he struggles to find his place in the world, and I think that's what I relate to. I think the first season did a good job at showing people what Chainsaw Man is, but I think the Reze movie will really show why people should give it a chance, and I hope it shows why we need more characters like Denji, because he gives us raw humanity. He isn't polished, noble or perfect. He has flaws, he's messy, but he's very relatable. Characters like him remind us that heroism can emerge even from imperfection. But I also think what makes Denji such a good character is his emotional depth. Beneath his crude exterior, Denji grapples with themes of loneliness, trauma and longing. You know, longing to be loved, to have friends, to have family. Characters like him create stories that resonate emotionally, wavering from humour to heartbreaking. And the last point is that I think it leads to more unpredictable storytelling, which makes it fun for the reader. With characters like Denji, you never really know what's coming next. Like I said earlier, you know, it keeps the audience engaged. Like, if you've watched the series, how many of you, man, remember when Denji just ate to throw up? Just because he has a habit of eating anything that has nutritional value. Scenes like this are what make Chainsaw Man stand out compared to other shonen. Yeah, but that's all I have to say for today's video. If you like it, like, subscribe, comment what you think. Let me know what other videos you would like like to see, and I hope you have a good day.